Ladies and gentlemen, we all have lazy days. But when laziness becomes a lifestyle, dreams begin to die. You weren't born to settle, you were born to shine. That fire in your soul, it's still there, but you have to choose to ignite it. From lazy to legendary, it's not magic, it's mindset. Stop waiting for motivation. Start creating discipline. Wake up with purpose, show up even when it's hard. Because every legend you admire once stood exactly where you are now. Tired, unsure, tempted to quit, but they flipped the switch, and so can you. Your story isn't over. It's just waiting for the hero to rise. Ladies and gentlemen, we all have lazy days. But when laziness becomes a lifestyle, dreams begin to die. You weren't born to settle, you were born to shine. That fire in your soul, it's still there, but you have to choose to ignite it. From lazy to legendary, it's not magic, it's mindset. Stop waiting for motivation. Start creating discipline. Wake up with purpose. Show up even when it's hard. Because every legend you admire once stood exactly where you are now. Tired, unsure, tempted to quit, but they flipped the switch, and so can you. Your story isn't over. It's just waiting for the hero to rise. Every legendary figure started from a place of uncertainty and struggle. What sets them apart is the decision to rise. Take control and flip the switch from comfort to commitment. Legends are not born in perfection. They are forged in adversity. Each person we admire, those who've changed history, inspired millions, or achieved greatness, began with the same doubts, fears, and challenges that many people face every day. They weren't superhuman. They weren't immune to failure. They simply made a different choice. When everything in their world said stay safe, wait, or give up, they said not today. And that decision, just one act of courage, of clarity, of discipline, became the first step in an extraordinary journey. They didn't have the full plan laid out. Most of them had no guarantees of success. What they had was vision. What they had was grit. They looked their struggles in the face and said, I won't stay here. That is the real power. The choice to move forward without waiting for perfect conditions. Uncertainty didn't stop them because they learned to act in spite of it. They didn't wait for confidence to appear magically. They built it through action. Every step forward, no matter how small, made the next one possible. Over time, those small steps became powerful momentum. Struggle, in fact, became the catalyst. The pain, the rejection, the setbacks, they used them. They didn't see struggle as a sign to stop. They saw it as proof that the path mattered. They accepted discomfort as part of the deal. That's what flipping the switch really means. It's turning pain into fuel. It's turning resistance into training. It's choosing the uncomfortable route because you know it leads to growth. The comfort zone is where dreams quietly die. It whispers soothing lies. You have time. You're not ready. Maybe later. But commitment doesn't wait for comfort. Commitment burns through excuses and builds new standards. Every legendary figure had moments when quitting would have been easier. But they didn't, because deep inside they knew something had to change, and that change wouldn't come from outside. It had to begin within. It came from self-leadership, from taking ownership of their time, their energy, their habits. They realized no one was coming to save them. No perfect opportunity was going to show up. It was on them. It was their responsibility to rise. That shift from hoping to owning, from drifting to driving, that's the foundation of every transformation. When you flip the switch from comfort to commitment, your priorities shift. You stop measuring life by how easy it is and start measuring it by how meaningful it becomes. You stop asking what's the easiest way and start asking what's the right way. You begin to act in alignment with your values, not your moods. That's when things begin to change. That's when people start noticing a difference. Not because you're lucky, but because you're consistent. Because you've chosen purpose over passivity. And it doesn't require dramatic changes all at once. Most legends didn't start with grand gestures. They started with daily habits, small disciplines that built inner strength. They committed to their craft, their health, their growth. They showed up when no one was watching. They worked in silence. They failed privately. They refined quietly. Until the day came when the world couldn't ignore them. That's what true transformation looks like. Not a single big leap, but thousands of intentional steps. The decision to commit rewires your brain. It replaces excuses with accountability. It turns I can't into how can I. It turns comparison into focus. When you choose commitment, distractions lose their power. You stop needing validation. You don't require external motivation. Your identity begins to shift. You stop calling yourself lazy or average, and you start seeing yourself as someone capable of greatness, not because you're better than anyone else, but because you've made a powerful choice most won't make. Flipping the switch also means accepting full responsibility for your mindset. You begin to protect your thoughts like you protect your goals. You feed your mind with belief, strategy, truth. You don't indulge in pity or envy. You remind yourself daily that pain is temporary, but purpose is lasting. You hold hold yourself to a higher standard, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. That's how you break cycles of mediocrity, by demanding more from yourself, even when no one else does. Every person who rises out of struggle eventually realizes this truth. The struggle was never the enemy. The comfort was. The real battle was always between the part of you that wants to stay the same and the part of you that's ready to evolve. The legends you admire faced that battle and chose growth. They weren't born different. They just responded differently. They faced the same resistance, but they didn't back down. They didn't settle. They built habits that made quitting harder than continuing. That's the level of commitment that changes lives. Once you choose commitment over comfort, you start living intentionally. You set boundaries that protect your time and purpose. You design your environment to support your goals. You stop wasting energy on drama, distractions, and self-doubt. You invest that energy into building something meaningful. Your body, your mind, your future. You don't chase motivation. You create structure. You don't look for hacks. You build systems. You don't wait for the mood to be right. You act because the mission is right. And yes, it's hard. Growth is not a straight line. You'll fall, you'll doubt, you'll question, but you won't stop, because you've made a choice, a deep, unshakable decision, that you're done living on autopilot. You're done surrendering your potential to fear and fatigue. You're done shrinking to fit into places that no longer serve you. That decision changes everything, not immediately, but eventually, and permanently. Every legendary journey has dark chapters, but legends don't stop writing. They turn those chapters into turning points. They use failure as feedback. They use setbacks as strength training. They stop asking why me and start asking what now. They don't fold under pressure. They focus. They don't let emotions rule. They lead with discipline. That's the shift. That's the power of commitment. When you flip that switch, you stop looking for reasons to quit and start finding reasons to continue. You might not control everything in life, but you control your standards. You control your effort. You control how you show up when things get tough. And that is more than enough, because over time, your consistent effort becomes your confidence. Your small wins compound. Your actions start to speak louder than your doubts. You no longer need to convince yourself that you can. You've already proven it by showing up again and again. When you operate from a place of commitment, people feel it. You walk differently. You speak with clarity. You radiate energy that attracts growth. And suddenly, you're no longer just dreaming of becoming legendary. You're living like it. Not because it's easy, not because it's perfect, but because you've chosen the hard, necessary path. Because you've accepted the truth that greatness doesn't wait for anyone. It must be claimed, earned, and protected every single day. The journey from comfort to commitment is not about luck or natural talent. It's about making a clear decision to rise despite uncertainty. This speech reminds us that every legendary figure we admire began exactly where many of us are now, uncertain, afraid, and tempted by the ease of doing nothing. But what separates the extraordinary from the average is the willingness to act in the face of fear,